Okay, now we are going to use long division with polynomials to decide if x plus 1 or x minus 3 are factors of x to the third plus 2x squared minus 5x minus 6. So let's start with the x plus 1. And I want to see how this divides into x to the third plus 2x squared minus 5x minus 6. Long division with polynomials is kind of nice because we can always knock off that very first term. So here's how I'm going to look at it. I want to figure out what I have to multiply this x by to make x to the third. So I'm going to start by multiplying by x squared, and I multiply both parts of this binomial by that. My x squared, I'm looking at x squared groups, I'm going to put above the x squared term in the polynomial just so I can keep everything straight. And now I'm going to multiply x squared times x is x to the third. I got a plus. X squared times 1 is x squared. Just like with the long division, we are now going to subtract both parts of this. That means the other way to write this is to subtract the x to the third and subtract the x squared. X to the third minus x to the third, that gives me a 0 here. I've got 2x squared minus 1x squared. That gives me an x to the second. And now I'm going to pull down that next term, the minus 5x. I got to figure out what I need to multiply my x by now to make this x to the second term. I'm going to multiply x by my x plus 1. I'm multiplying by positive x, so it's a plus x up there. X times x gives me the x to the second. X times 1 gives me x. Again, what'd you do with them? I'm going to subtract both terms. X to the second minus x to the second, I get a 0 here. I got minus 5x minus x gives me a minus 6x. And down comes my minus 6. What do I have to multiply my x by? This one right here. To get minus 6x, that's minus 6. Minus 6 goes up here. Negative 6 times x gives me a minus 6x. Negative 6 times 1 gives me a minus 6. Again, I am subtracting both pieces. Minus the negative makes a plus 6x. Minus negative 6 makes plus 6. I end up with a 0 here. If I have a remainder of 0, that means that x plus 1 goes in evenly. So x plus 1 is a factor because the remainder is 0. We're going to try this again with x minus 3. Again, I am dividing into x to the third plus 2x squared minus 5x minus 6. I multiply again by x squared to make that x to the third term. X to the second times x is x to the third. X to the second times negative 3 is minus 3x squared. I am subtracting both terms, so minus x to the third minus negative 3x squared means plus 3x squared. I am going to add straight down. x to the third minus x to the third gives me a 0. 2x to the second plus 3x to the second gives me a 5x to the second. Minus 5x comes down. What do I multiply x by to make 5x squared? I am going to multiply by 5x. So that's a plus 5x right here. 5x times x gives me a 5x to the second. 5x times negative 3 gives me minus 15x. I am subtracting. The 5x squared gets canceled out. I have minus 5x plus 15x, which gives me a 10x. I'm bringing down that minus 6. I have to multiply by 10 to make that 10x. 10 times x is 10x. Minus 10 times 3 is 30. When I subtract those, my 10x goes away, but I have negative 6 plus 30, which gives me a 24. So I have a remainder of 24. And x minus 3 is not a factor of, what's my polynomial? X to the third plus 2x to the second minus 5x minus 6. Because there is a remainder of 24. Here is your chance to practice this. Pretty sure you've just been dying for that opportunity. So we have got 2x to the second minus x minus 10 divided by x plus 2. This would be a great time to pause the recording, give this a shot, and see how you do. I am multiplying 2x by x plus 2, which gives me a 2x squared plus 4x. I am going to go ahead and subtract both of those terms. My 2x squareds drop out. Minus x minus 4x gives me a negative 5x. I'm going to bring down my minus 10. I have got to multiply x by minus 5 to make that minus 5x. I get minus 5x minus 10. I'm going to subtract both of those, which means adding 5x and adding 10, I get a remainder of 0. One of the ways you're going to see in the homework that you need to write this is if we are writing it as a quotient and a remainder, this means that 2x squared minus x minus 10 can be written as x plus 2 times the quotient we got up here, 2x minus 5. There is no remainder. If I had a remainder, it would be plus 0. So make sure that you are writing this in the format that the homework is asking for. Now, we can make our life easier and use something called synthetic division. We are going to do the exact same division we did up above. Synthetic division is nice because it uses a nesting principle and doesn't involve as much work. You do have to remember that every linear factor has a root, and that root is what we are going to plug in. We start when we're using synthetic division by just listing the coefficients. So I am going to go with the 1 in front of the x to the third, the 2 in front of the x squared, the minus 5 in front of the x, and the minus 6 are constant. And I'm just going to list those out here. 1, 2, minus 5, minus 6. I'm going to draw a little box up here, and I am going to plug in the root. These are kind of nice because we only do one operation at a time. We always add straight down. 1 plus nothing is 1. When we move across this line, we multiply by our potential root, whatever's in the little box. So I've got 1 times that -1, I get -1. Add straight down, 2 plus -1 is 1. Multiply across. 1 times -1 is -1. -5 plus -1 is -6. Times -1 is +6. And in my last box, which I'm going to kind of block off here, I get a 0. This is my remainder. This right here is called my depressed equation. It gives me the quotient when this is being divided. So starting at the far right, my remainder is 0. My constant term is -6. My linear term is x. My quadratic term. I know that x to the third plus 2x squared minus 5x minus 6 can be written as x plus 1 times x squared plus x minus 6. Of course, I've reduced this down to a quadratic at that point. We can use the quadratic formula, or we can factor that quadratic. So let's try this again. And you notice this is the exact one that we did when we did our first long division. We also got a quotient of x to the second plus x minus 6, same as we got down here. This time, the 3 goes into the box. Again, I am adding straight down. 1 plus nothing is 1. I multiply across by the number in the box. 1 times 3 is 3. We add straight down, we get 5. Multiply by 3, I get 15. Add straight down, I get 10. Multiply by 3, I get 30. I end up with a remainder of 24, just like I did up above. Last example on this page. I do want to point out something before you take a shot at this. We want to make sure that we have a coefficient for every term. So here I have 2x to the third. I have 7x squared. I have no x's, so I'm going to use a 0 as a placeholder. And then I have a constant of -5. So again, add straight down. Multiply across the line. 2 times -3 is -6. Add straight down. 7 plus -6 is 1. 1 times -3 is -3. 0 plus -3 is -3. -3 times -3 is 9. 9 plus -5 is 4. A couple of different ways that we could write this, depending on what you are being asked for. So this equals x plus 3 times 2x squared plus x minus 3 with a remainder of 4. You can also be asked to write it as the quotient and then the remainder over what we are dividing by.